Pleased to be joined, though, as we kick off hour number 2 by Mike Quick. He is the Eagles analyst and also former NFL wide receiver. Mike, great to chat with you, man. Hope things are well.
Jonathan, things are great over here. How about you?
Yeah, can't complain. I'm sure they are, watching the receivers that you get to break down each and every week. We know we're in Nashville right now. We know A.J. Brown is really, really good. Did you think he was going to produce to this level based on what they paid him and pairing him with Devontae Smith? Because you've got two 1,000-yard receivers in the same season for the first time in franchise history.
So, I was excited about the move when Howie Roseman, the GM, made the move to go get AJ. I expected him to be good, but I didn't expect this. He's better than advertised. He's better than I expected. I didn't watch a lot of him when he was at Tennessee, but I didn't see this coming. He's really good in a lot of ways. And that the two of these guys together, he and Devontae, I call them the dynamic duo because they're different, but at the same time, they're so productive in what they bring to the party.
Yeah, and pairing him with Devontae Smith, it feels like such a luxury, but Mike, receivers know receivers and what other receivers need and what teams need from that position. Did you feel like this offseason that the Eagles needed A.J. Brown, or that this is a real luxury to have A.J. Brown?
No, it's perfect. I felt like the Eagles needed a veteran guy in that room, someone who's been in the battle before, knows how to do things, knows how to lead the way for a young group of receivers. And he really fits the bill perfectly. And physically, he's a different dude. He's able to make plays. You can have guys hanging on him. He still is going to make plays. You can't bump him at the line because he's too strong. He's fast enough to get downfield on guys. And you've got Devontae, who's just so skilled. He's small and, he's skinny. He's skinny Batman. And AJ is swole Batman. and they're calling Quiz fast Batman. So these three Batmen, they all bring their own little thing to the party, but they're so. I think it's such a good combination of wide receivers. These three young men.
Eagles are good everywhere, Mike. Where is their weakness?
Probably depth in some areas. This team is really not. They're so well built. This is one of the most well constructed teams in my mind that's in the National Football League. Offensive line good, D line's good. Where could they be weak? They really don't have. I can say this: early in the season, special teams weren't really producing. Now the special teams, they've caught up and they are kind of up to par. They're not overwhelming. There's nothing great about special teams, but they're not putting you in a bad situation. And earlier in the season, they were doing that. I think in some areas, depth might be an issue, but the overall, when you line up 22 on offense or defense, I think they stack up with any team in the National Football League.
Oftentimes you'll get talking about a unit saying, well, this is a very good defensive line or this is a really good offensive line. But I feel like it's not that often with the offensive line that there's sort of a unanimous best offensive line in the NFL. I hear that moniker time and time again for this Eagles offensive line. Mike, do you agree with that? And if so, what makes this offensive line so special for the Eagles?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I believe that they are. It's hard for you to show me five guys that are as good as these guys. I think Jason Kelsey is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll start with him, the center. He's not a big guy, but his mobility is just off the chart. And all five of the guys that start, they can move. They not only can they maul you at the line of scrimmage when you pull these guys out on the perimeter, they're really good perimeter blockers because they're such good athletes. Jordan Mailata, a guy who had never played football before 5 years ago, didn't even know how to put the uniform on, but he's 6'8", 370 pounds, and it's just amazing to watch this man move. All of that size and weight, the way he's able to move it. Landon Dickerson, the kid that they drafted out of Alabama 2 years ago, He's going to the Pro Bowl this year, and he has been phenomenal. I knew that he was going to be good. He's exceeded anything that I thought he would be. Isaac Seumalo, the right guard. Lane Johnson probably should be a Hall of Famer when he's done with this game. Lane started in football as a quarterback, went to tight end, so he's an athlete, and now he's one of the best right tackles in all of football. You line up all five of those guys, and then backing them up, Cam Jurgens, the kid that they drafted out of Nebraska, and Jack Driscoll. It's just a solid group of players. Now, you get all of that talent, and you get a Jeff Stoutland, probably one of the best offensive line coaches in football, just kind of molding these guys and putting together a scheme that makes this running game really dynamic. And they use all of these cool angles to block people and shield guys off, and they're just fun to watch. I grew up on the outside, wide receiver, and playing the skilled position, but I've never enjoyed more watching the offensive line play as I do now.
Mike Quick is the Philadelphia Eagles radio analyst. He joins us on OutKick 360. Mike, there's nothing really not to like about what Jalen Hurts has done on the field. What I came away with early this season, he's having some great performances. He starts to get mentioned in the MVP conversation, and just his presence, how consistent he was with the media during the week, at the podium after a big win, where he's almost speaking to the locker room while speaking to the media, and that's very rare nowadays, especially at the quarterback position throughout the league. In a prove-it year, what has impressed you the most about the Eagles QB?
Where do I begin? He's really impressed. So the way he handles everybody, he is a guy that, I don't know, is he 25, but maturity-wise, he's well beyond his years. He's like an old dude when you look at him, and you the way he handles himself, the maturity level that he appears to be at, even more mature than the head coach of the team.
Yeah.
Just the way he handles, you mentioned it, the players as well as the media. The guy is just a pro, and I just did not see that happening so quickly. Now, I know that he's talented, and I felt like he would eventually become a good player, but no one saw this, the way he's ascended in such a short period of time. I don't think anyone could have said that this was going to happen, but we're watching it, and we're watching this guy just right in our eyes. I think Brian Johnson really helped the quarterback coach, because they go all the way back from when Jalen was a kid. And Johnson's with him all the time, and I think he's really helped him to grow as a pro. But the other intangibles that are there, they were already put in by his father and coaches when he was a little guy. His father being a high school coach and coaching him through high school and just being around the game all of his life. I think that has a lot to do with who he is right now.
So many NFL coaches, I can't really separate them from a personality standpoint. They all kind of sound the same at times. Not the case with Nick Sirianni and his personality. What has that personality brought to this Eagles team, especially being that type of personality and that type of guy in the head coaching position for that team?
I just think he's fun. He's young enough still that he really relates to the players, and I think it starts there. He holds people accountable. And that, to me, is really important. And he's going to back these guys. If something's going on, Nick's going to have their back. He'll take bullets for them rather than putting them out there and having the media or having us blame the player. Nick wants to take the blame. But if you watch him on the sideline during games, he's just being himself. The guy has a lot of fun. He gets excited, sometimes a little too excited, but it's who he is. And one thing I've learned about being in locker rooms, you can't hide who you are. And if you're not being who you are, then players are going to know that. And you don't get the same level of respect from players if you're trying to be somebody else. Nick is who he is. He's very relatable. And he's a very, very, very smart football mind.
Mike, can you explain what playoff football is like in Philly and what Brock Purdy is in for as he hits the road this weekend as the quarterback of the Niners?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like nothing he's ever dealt with. I just, football in general, when you get to the NFL, it's a little bit different. And I know he's played in some big games, but at Iowa State, it's a little bit different than going to Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And there's one game separating you from going to the Super Bowl. The crowd is going to be stoked. It's going to be a crazy environment. And I just think it's a difficult place to play, even in the regular season. But when you get to where the stakes are as high as they are, I think the 12th man, being that crowd, will try to make things difficult for the entire 49ers team. So I'm sure that it'll be something that he's never witnessed before.
Two great defenses going head-to-head here as well in this matchup on Sunday. I'm curious, when Philly has lost this year, and it's only happened 3 times, twice without Hurts. When they've lost, though, Mike, what's been the common denominator? And if you're defending this offense, how do you think San Fran matches up with Philly?
So I think the common thread on games that it was just the mistakes on their own part. When they are buttoned up, when they've got everything, making the correct calls, correct assignments, doing things the right way, they've been a pretty dominant team. Wait, what was the other part to the question?
Well, just how the Niners have match up against what Philly can do offensively.
Oh, it's a great matchup because the Niners are great. It's the number one defense in football for a reason. They are, across their front, they are extremely good. Nick Bosa, he's the best pass rusher in football right now. He leads the NFL in sacks. And across the board up front, they're really good. But I think they've got perhaps the best 2 linebackers in football, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. These guys are unbelievable football players. I think if the Eagles are going to win this game, it's going to be the dynamic duo that I talked about earlier, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I think when you match them up with the corners on the outside, I think that's where the Eagles have an advantage. And aside from that, the Niners defend the middle of the field extremely well. I think the Eagles are going to have to work the ball outside the numbers to really be effective against that defense and just try and spread that defense out. Because if they can get you to bunch inside the numbers and play in that space, they're really good and they're hard to move the football on.
Better matchup if the Eagles advance, Chiefs or Bengals, and why?
Well, I kind of would like to see the Chiefs just because Andy Reid going against his old team, I think would be a lot of fun. I think that would just that would be a lot of fun for, especially for the people from Philadelphia. But I do believe that Cincinnati, given the fact that their quarterback in Kansas City is not going to be at full strength, I think that Joe Burrow and what's going on in Cincinnati right now, I think they can win the game. And I think it could very well be the Eagles and the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
Mike, you played in Philly and you thrived, and everyone knows that Philly fans have a certain reputation. Do you find that it takes a certain? Do you find that it takes a certain type of player mentally to thrive in a place like Philly and star for the Eagles? And when you look at the makeup of this team, are you seeing that being consistent with this group in terms of playing for this fan base?
Yeah, absolutely. It starts with you can't have too thin or skin. If you're thin-skinned, this is not the place to play. And a perfect example is the kid that played basketball for the Sixers, Ben
Simmons.
He's in New York. Yeah, Ben Simmons in New York now. You just can't play in Philadelphia if you're thin-skinned because when things don't go well, the fans here are going to tell you about it. Now it's up to you if you're man enough to go fix it, or if you're gonna go into a shell. And when guys go into a shell, that it usually just keeps going the wrong direction. So Brandon Graham, great example. Brandon Graham early in his career, the fans thought that he was a bust, and they were giving it to Brandon Graham. Well, he bounces back, and now he's probably one of the most beloved players that ever played in Philadelphia because he worked hard, he put his head down, and he just started to work hard and playing better. And once he started to play better, he got people love Brandon Graham now. People in Philadelphia, Brandon Graham could do no wrong. Not to mention the fact that he sacked Tom Brady in the Super Bowl that the Eagles won. So he'll always have that. Never have to buy another beer anywhere in Philadelphia because he was that guy. But you just have to play hard. You don't have to always win, but if you're playing your hardest, if they see that you're giving it all, fans in Philadelphia are going to love you. Yeah, they want you to win, but there are a lot of times that during my career, we didn't win. But the fans came out, the fans loved on us because we were busting it. We were giving everything that we had and trying to win every game. But you cannot succeed, in my mind, in Philadelphia if you're not doing well and you have thin skin.
Former NFL wideout and the radio analyst for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mike Quick, has been our guest. Mike, thank you for the time and perspective, and enjoy the championship weekend there.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
you.
Mike.